Alright, so I just got done looking at a bunch of Comic-Con interviews, articles, and footage involving the TV show Arrow, which, for those who don't know, is basically kind of kind of a Smallville-esque live-action TV interpretation of the DC Comics hero, the Green Arrow. Um, Again, how well it follows the. I mean, you probably heard me say this a lot of all three of you who watch my videos. um, but you probably hear me say this a lot in that I did not read the Green Arrow comic books. I'm not a hardcore fan of the Green Arrow. But I don't mean that he is a bad character. I just never got into him. I mean, I was more into kind of X-Men and Batman and stuff like that. But the panel basically went with the members of the cast saying how they want to advance their characters and how season 2 is much more interesting story-wise and again in terms of advancing their character. In fact, one big plus they said is that originally in the first season the writers had come up with a 13 episode order with and it was only expanded to the 22, 23, somewhere around there. It was only expanded to that number of episodes after the CW ordered a full season of it. So in that sense, after the 13 episodes, they were just kind of making it up as they went along. For this one, they have a full season to tell the story that they want to tell. So it might make for a smoother narrative, because the narrative of the first season of Arrow did kind of feel very episodic at times. So, not that that's a bad thing, but it seemed like that wasn't really their intent. And really, when Arrow started off, it wasn't very good. I mean, at best, it was average. I understand it got better. I mean, it kept me watching until the end of the season, and I'm probably gonna watch it again when season 2 rolls around. But the thing with the first season of Arrow, specifically the earlier episodes, is that every single interaction between members of the cast succumbed to a very easily missed problem among cast members when handling characters that are supposed to be familiar with each other, or when handling characters that are supposed to be friends. In that you can just tell that they are acting. I mean, they don't really have this big, strong connection that you would expect the character to have. I mean, you don't really believe the conversations are as natural as the script would lead you to believe. I mean, not that the acting is bad, but you can just tell. You can just tell that it's just not as natural as they wanted it to be. I mean, the same thing happened with the early episodes of the new Hawaii Five-0. I mean, specifically with Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Kahn, and a lot of the times also with Daniel Day Kim, in that when they were talking in the car or when they were talking at the police station, they were supposed to have this big kind of bickering friendship going on, this for lack of a better word, bromance, and you didn't completely buy it. Not when compared to some other buddy cop relationships over the years. I mean, when you watch the first Lethal Weapon movie, you can tell instantly that Mel Gibson and Danny Glover have great chemistry. They genuinely, they are familiar with each other, they like each other, and that reflects very well on screen. with Alex O'Loughlin and Scott Conn, they were just sort of acting. I mean, they were just sort of acting like they liked each other. They were sort of acting like they had this very dynamic relationship. So, but eventually that got better as they got more familiar with each other as the show went along. The conversations between all the characters, in fact, did feel more natural, and it has got to a point now where you really like seeing these characters interact. I mean, it's a lot of fun. You can tell that they really like each other. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on Hawaii Five-0. But getting back to Arrow got better in the same way. Not quite to the same extent because it's only had one season. But the thing with Arrow is that you had to believe that Oliver Queen, played by Stephen Amell, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. You had to believe that him and John Ramsey, who plays his bodyguard / driver / partner, you had to believe that he and John Ramsey had this really strong connection between crime fighters and soldier-fighter type characters, because they had both seen very rough combat before. And there really had to be this kind of believable mutual relationship, and in the early episodes it just felt awkward. I mean, you didn't really believe that these guys knew each other that well. You didn't really believe that these guys even really liked each other. I mean, you got, this could just be me, but I got the sense that whenever they were having a moment together, they just could not wait to get out of the room. But again, the relationship got somewhat more genuine by the end of the season, where, okay, I somewhat believe this. I want to see where this goes. But as for season 2 of Arrow, this panel and at Comic-Con and the video basically was 50% made up of fanboy revelations. I mean, revelations designed to generate fanboyism. I mean, they say, oh, we're going to have Black Canary in the show. Oh, we might have Speedy. Oh, we're going to, probably the biggest one, we're going to introduce a character named Barry Allen, who might get a spin-off of his own TV series into a new Flash TV series. Because Barry Allen is one of a few renditions of the Flash. But basically that was half the stuff that came out of the creators of the show, and a great deal of what came out of the cast. Aside from the enjoyment of working on the show, which understandable, but they say that Black Canary is not going to be Dinah Laurel Lance, the Katie Cassidy character. It's instead going to be her sister, who I think, what was her name? Sarah. That was it. That was it. That is going to be Black Canary. Now, the thing with Black Canary, for those who don't know, is her wardrobe is not entirely dissimilar to Zatanna, in that she dresses in kind of dark clothing, and she's, as far as the Justice League Unlimited series went, she was a love interest for the Green Arrow. But her big thing is, aside from knowing martial arts, she has a sonic scream. Now, I don't count on them including that, because up until this point in the show, they haven't really introduced any quote-unquote superpowers. I mean, at most, they've introduced supreme accuracy from the likes of Green Arrow, Deadshot, even the bad guy, the Dark Archer guy. But that's really it. They haven't really introduced any supernatural stuff. They haven't introduced any for lack of a better term, superpowers. I mean, it's all been grounded in kind of this hyper realism. I mean, it's kind of like Batman Begins in that way. That was another problem with the first season of Arrow, is that it was undeniably similar to Batman Begins in terms of story and structure. But hopefully it can move past that now. But going back to the Black Canary thing, are they going to do some kind of... I hope they don't screw this up, on one hand. But on the other hand, I was never really a huge Black Canary fan. I mean, honestly, in the Justice League TV series, she was voiced by the black-haired wife actress from Homeland. I think Monica. Oh, I can't remember her name. Monica something. She was voiced by that actress. She could probably play her in the Arrow TV series, to be honest. But this, I don't really mind this. I hope it's not really a one-off character, like, or not really a one-off character, but a character that appears for an episode and then is just forgotten about until she appears again several episodes later. That's what they did with the Huntress, which I kind of liked the Huntress, the way they portrayed her here. But aside from Black Canary, who else? The Speedy thing. Okay, Roy Harper is Speedy, and at this point, the character of Roy Harper is dating the Green Arrow's little sister, played by, I don't know, Willa Holland. I'm reading a list of names. Because I can't remember them all. But basically, they've been kind of hinting at this. Or kind of half hinting, half slapping us in the face with the fact that this kid is Roy Harper and he might become Speedy, because he's basically, the majority of his dialogue so far has consisted of, oh, I just want to help the vigilante. Oh, I just want to do some good. I'm tired of my boring life. Blah, 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 blah. So it's basically been telegraphed from the get-go that he was going to be Speedy. So I don't know where all this doubt is coming from. He's obviously going to be Speedy. The actor even said, "Am I Speedy? Well, I don't know yet." In that kind of way that actors do, where they know that they're going to be such and such down the line. So as for having, they've already kind of set up Speedy, and they made him, honestly, he's one of the less likable characters on the show, in my opinion. I mean, he's more likable than the sister, his girlfriend, but that's not saying much. I mean, I really don't like her. I like the actress, I don't really like the character. But yeah, again, they also said they would introduce Summer Glau as one of the Arrow's nemeses. Summer Glau is a villain? I know she played one in Dollhouse, but I never watched Dollhouse. But Summer Glau is a bad guy. They've already had some very good actors play bad guys. I mean, they had Kelly Hu play, I really don't want to be offensive in saying this, China White, an Asian chick with white hair who knows martial arts, who beats the crap out of the Arrow. Kelly Hu played that character. You had the Dark Archer. He was a lot of fun. Deadshot, who they actually set him up relatively well. Deadshot could easily just be written off as this just assassin. This nameless assassin. They could have done that and just called him Deadshot. But no, they actually set up kind of an interesting story for him in that he starts off as just a nameless assassin, but then Arrow shoots him in the eye, and he gets the red eyepiece. So I'm interested to see where they go with that, especially seeing the rivalry that he has with John Ramsey. Or not John Ramsey, the David Ramsey. I am so sorry. I keep confusing him for his character, John Diggle. But the season 2 of Arrow, I don't really know how they are going to segue into season 2, because season 1 literally ended with the leveling of the city, or at least a section of the city. Again, taking off of Batman Begins, where an entire section of the city is basically uninhabitable, at least temporarily. But there's property damage in the millions at the end of the first season. An entire section of city is just gone. It's just honestly the last shot where it's kind of panning over the CG wreckage. It kind of reminds me of the opening scene from Infamous, where the explosion wipes out everything within a mile radius. I'm sure the radius on this is bigger than that, but I don't know how they're going to segue into season 2 from that. Maybe it takes place months later, like after Reconstruction. But one thing I'm kind of going to miss is the best friend, the Tommy Merlin. Colin Donnell, I think, plays him, and he was one of the more likable characters on the show. I liked him better than I liked the Arrow, which really says something about. If nothing else, it says something about the writing, and it says something about the acting, because Colin Donnell, in my opinion, is a better actor than Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell is not a bad actor, but Colin Donnell just seemed more real. He seemed more relatable. He seemed to handle the dramatic scenes a lot better than Stephen Amell. So he's gone, and he went out again being the likable character in the love triangle between him, Laurel, and Oliver Queen. Yeah, I'm kind of sad to see he was not going to be around anymore. He was, at least in the present day sections, he was my favorite character. Although my favorite character in the entire show, I hope is going to be back, is Manu Bennett as Deathstroke, who at this point is Slade Wilson. They kind of did the Deathstroke thing where you had the guy in the orange and black mask, the mercenary guy in the orange and black mask didn't really talk. But it turns out Manu Bennett plays the real Deathstroke. The other guy was just a decoy. Or not a decoy, a former partner. But Manu Bennett, not only is his character the best written in the show, you really buy that this guy has a lot of battle experience, and you really buy every single piece of hard-edge, military, violent dialogue that comes out of his mouth. Mainly because it's Manu Bennett playing him. This is one of the butchest actors out there, at least on TV right now. He just came off of Spartacus, and sadly, you don't even see him. You see his facial movements, but you don't even see him in The Hobbit. You see an orc a big white Kratos orc played by him. But I might be a little biased in saying he's my favorite character, but I don't care. I mean that's happened to me before. I've been biased in saying that I don't like a character because I don't like the actor, or I like a character because I like the actor. I mean, I hate to keep coming back to this, but Man of Steel, I liked Jor-El mainly because it was Russell Crowe playing him. I liked... What else did I like in that movie? I liked... Actually, he was about it. But, yeah, it's... Really... I'm really interested to see where this series is going to go, and hopefully he will actually fire a real arrow in Season 2, because all the ones in Season 1 were fake. I mean, they were CG. I mean, what's the point of going through all that training if you can't even fire a real arrow? I mean, in Lord of the Rings, Orlando Bloom fired a real arrow. In Robin Hood, Kevin Costner fired a real arrow. Why can't this guy called the Green Arrow, who is known for his archery skills, why can't he fire a real arrow? I mean, the arrows are real when they're just sitting there, or when someone is looking at him. The arrows are real then, but when they're actually flying through the air, they are CG. Why can't they do kind of a cutaway, like you see him fire the arrow past the camera, and then do a CG arrow as it's flying through the air in a separate shot? I mean, but I'm nitpicking. I know, I'm nitpicking. Basically, I'm interested to see where it's going to go. I mean, the characters are well established now. The story is ripe for expanding upon, and I guess I hope the Flash TV series gets off the ground. I mean, right now DC is doing a lot better on TV than it is on in movies, with the exception of Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. I mean, when was the last really great, iconic DC movie you saw? Man of Steel, the Green Lantern movie. I don't know if Red counts because Red is not exactly as iconic as the superheroes out there. But Red and Red 2, those were kind of fun. I'm rambling here. I better sign out. So yeah, Arrow, looking forward to it. I hope they iron out some of the problems of Season 1, which at this point they very well should be ironing out the problems of Season 1. They actually ironed out a fair bit of the problems at the by the end of Season 1. And I hope Emily Bett Rickards, I think that's her name, Emily Bett Rickards, I hope she gets more screen time, because she was the other best character of the show as the computer hacking third member of the Team Arrow, as it were. I mean, she brought such a life to the show. I hope her role gets expanded. It did. I mean, she went from kind of a guest star to a member of the main cast mid-season. So I hope they expand her role so that we actually get to see something beyond the computer hacker. And I also hope the Walter guy comes back. His adoptive dad, he was likable. I mean, I'm finding a lot of the side characters more likable than the Green Arrow himself. I mean, the Walter guy, the CEO, the best friend, Tommy Merlin. Yes, that's the character's name, Tommy Merlin. Felicity, his partner. David Ramsey as John Diggle. I finally got that down. I mean, all these other characters... Oh, and Manu Bennett as Deathstroke. All these other characters I'm liking better than the Arrow. And I don't think I'm supposed to. But then again, I will give this show the benefit of the doubt on that. I mean, it's got its problems, but it kept me interested. I mean, which was more than I could say for Smallville. Smallville was not a bad show. I just could never get into it. I mean, Arrow has been keeping me interested, at least so far. I hope it does not go downhill. I hope the characters do indeed get to be expanded upon. I hope the stories become more interesting. And I hope to God that a lot of these new characters are being added to the show strictly because they will genuinely add something besides fan service. I mean, that was kind of a big problem I had, or I still do have, with Marvel's Avengers movies, is that a lot of the characters just seemed there for fan service. Iron Man 2, why was Black Widow there? I don't know, fan service. Why was Samuel L. Jackson there? I don't know, fan service. To be honest, he kind of looked like he did in the reboot of Shaft, except with an eye patch. Whatever. Rambling. Arrow. Hope it's good.